Alright, I'm making another video. I get to talk out my ass because reasons. Because, this is fun or some, yeah, whatever. Let's get started. Alright, so here's what we're going to talk about today the bullshit behind politics. And what better time to talk about this? Because, some people are at each other's throats over some stupid bullshit and they're trying to pull the rest of us into their nonsense. You'd think people would be applying the year 2020 to their hindsight so they could figure out how we got here instead of yelling at people to become their thought slaves, but oh well. It's not like that's a missed opportunity or anything. Anyways, let's start at the most important part of this discussion the language. Realistically, it seems like people nowadays know about half of what they should know about their own language and less than what they think they know. So let's begin looking at ours. And because we know how reliable online dictionaries are anymore, let's refer to them first, shall we? Alright, so here we got the definition for the word liberal. Willing to respect or accept behavior or opinions different from one's own, open to new ideas. Well, that dismisses the, quote, far left from being described as liberal. Video over. Have a nice day, everyone. No, I'm kidding. Let's continue. Relating to or denoting a political and social philosophy that promotes individual rights, civil liberties, democracy, and free enterprise. Nope. No buzzwords in there whatsoever. A supporter of policies that are socially progressive and promote social welfare. Okay. A supporter of political and social philosophy that promotes individual rights, civil liberties, democracy, and free enterprise. Alrighty then. Anyone notice what I did? You didn't notice it? I'll get back to it in a second. Now, language is many things, but first and foremost, it's a utility. Words can have multiple meanings that may seem dissimilar at first, but there's usually a common theme behind all the definitions, unless it's a word that's been adopted from another language. So, what's the common theme here? If we look at the etymology of the word, the roots trace back to something along the lines of suitable for a free man. However, I don't know about you, but I've heard uses of the word meaning to act without any kind of particular restraint. Like, I like to be liberal with the hot peppers in my food as long as I find them tasty. So, realistically, there's some inconsistencies with these definitions of liberal. But the one thing I can find in common is an openness to things being different. Now, let's look at conservative. Averse to change or innovation and holding traditional values. Well, that makes sense because to conserve something inherently means to prevent it from changing. Favoring free enterprise, private ownership, and socially traditional ideas. Well, I love how free enterprise is thrown in there too, just like in liberal. Person who is adverse to change and holds traditional values. Okay, that's consistent. Person favoring free enterprise, private ownership, and socially traditional ideas. I don't really see what the free enterprise has to do with anything in either definition, and I don't really see how private ownership really fits into conservative, considering that conservatives tend to be religious and believe that God controls everything. I mean, I don't know how that's private ownership. That seems like an oxymoron to me, but whatever. Again, look for a main theme here, and it's easier in this one. It's a desire to keep things from changing. So, for the purposes of the discussion, we'll use these definitions, and we're also going to keep the economic aspects out of it. And here we go. So, liberal means open to change, and conservative means resistant to change. I can talk. Resistant to change. Pretty simple definitions. Now, when we talk about government and law, we have to ask, what does this really refer to? And the answer is our socialist structure. And what is a government? Well, a government is anything that decides and implements rules and law over people. So, in a democracy or even a representative republic, every individual person is the government. Realistically, in a country, anyone in the country is the government. That's really a more complex topic that you can take a poli-sci class for, or just start reading the intro books like Locke and I can't remember other names, but yeah, you'll go down the rabbit hole and it'll be fun. Definitely read Socrates. But anyways, rules and laws are there to determine our social and economic structure. And when people talk about the political spectrum, these are the things that they're referring to. Okay? Yeah. Not saying anything that's not blatantly obvious for a lot of people. But again, just want to set the bar before we go. But if you notice, it didn't really say in either definition how rules and laws are exacted. Well, that's because realistically, there's another spectrum, which is cooperative and authoritarianism. Now, sure, we can say in the previous definition of liberal implies a more cooperative governance, but it's not entirely explicit. Likewise, the conservative definition didn't explicitly state that it promoted the idea of authoritarianism. A lot of us tend to think that because we've heard the term right-wing authoritarian a whole lot. So, if you do want to say that being liberal is about letting people be and letting them go about their business, then anyone who participates in cancel culture is, by that definition, not a liberal. So where does that leave you then? You're a conservative? Well, hey, marching to the beat of a different Bible is still marching to the beat of a Bible, am I right? Anyways, let's look how we should really break this down, given our definitions that make more sense. This is a more accurate depiction of what politics look like. And wouldn't you know it, most people are right in this area. Right where you expect them to be, somewhere around the middle. Let's look at some other groups. Well, we have hippies. Hippies tend to be over here. And then you got the Amish, who are over here. And then you got most of the dictators in recent times right over here. But what you've seen a lot of over the first world countries in the most recent history is this: liberal authoritarianism. And this is why much of the world has become shit recently. It's not because of people being libtards or conservatives. It's because people don't want to recognize the real problem. The struggles in the society used to primarily be between these two factions: the mass of the population and the right-wing authoritarians. But the problem for those who want to rule is that it was still a unifying struggle. It's a lot harder to control people's lives if they're united against you. So, circa the mid-90s, you started to see the rise of left-wing authoritarianism. So now the struggles look like this. And this is really what's ripping society apart. More and more, you see people with their uneven length arms join one side or the other, not realizing that the driving force behind their divisive behavior is because all the elected people, at least here in the U.S., have become completely authoritarian. And they just don't feel they have anywhere to go. So what are they going to do? They're going to stick to the rivers and lakes that they're used to. But the truth is that these two groups of people don't give a fuck about the common people who rally to them one way or another. Whenever you support authoritarianism, all you're really asking to do is be oppressed last. You're still being asked to be oppressed yourself, so there's realistically no nobility or actually even common sense in your actions. And banners don't really even matter at that point, except for, I don't know, what do you want stamped on your shackles? A donkey or an elephant? But this is what those in power or that want power don't want you to realize, that these spectrums are diverse in this way. You know, I know I'm probably preaching to the choir over here with whoever the fuck is actually going to see this video, but the real problem in any society isn't that some people want things to change and that some others don't want them to. It's when one group of people becomes tyrannical over another. Now, realistically, we could have the discussion that if you're either in a tyranny of the majority or a tyranny of the minority, you're still in a tyranny, but that's for another time. So, whether you're a liberal or conservative, I think we can all agree that it seems like this is a question very few people ask themselves anymore. I know there are going to be some people who try to hash out the, well, who did it worse debate in both forms of authoritarianism, but does that really matter? I mean, realistically, the new hotness authoritarianism is basically flexing by punching the biggest dude into prison. And if the conservative authoritarians get to, quote, strike back, well, then it's just going to do the same thing of trying to one up the other guy, too. And it's all just the same bullshit that just piles on and piles on. And realistically, let's look at the US election. All four of these people are authoritarian. None of them give a fuck about you. All of them, during their time in office, have been helping out the rich while saying they've been helping out the little guy. They've also been squashing the rights of the average person. They're all beholden to corporations and the war industry. You think just because they say what you want to hear that they're going to stop trying to keep the boot on your neck? Well, if you do, I got a bridge to sell you. All four of these people are a net negative for the US and realistically the world. And I would seriously rather take my chances with some random asshat off the street than any of these because statistically, we'd have a better shot at fixing things. Look, at the end of the day, we all got to live with each other. I mean, what's the other option? To kill each other? Oh, yeah, sure, that seems fun, and we'll have fun dealing with the bodies because no one ever thinks about the aftermath. Everyone always thinks it'll be someone else's problem. And look, I get that we're all stressed out and we all just really want to make things better. But that just means it's more important to take a moment, take a step back, look around, and see where the problems are really coming from. Spoiler alert, it ain't from someone saying things that you don't like. It's from the people harming the person who said something you don't like. And you know, I'm stressed out too. And you know what we all do when we're all stressed out? We make mistakes. It's a part of being human. And that's got nothing to do with whether you're conservative or a liberal. So let's just pause on everything for a minute and start talking to each other again, shall we? I mean, at least before we start making mistakes that we really regret and we can't go back from. And here we reach the end. So, as usual, if you like the video, I don't give a shit. If you want to see more stuff like this, well, then you can shit in one hand, wish in the other, and see which one fills up first, because I don't plan on doing this on the regular. Bye.